Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we are back with another brand new video. Today's our video after what seems like weeks since the old tale of the two McGregors. We are finally back in action as there's another game upon the horizon, and it's a game that takes us all the way back to where the season started, which is of course Aberdeen away. But before we go any further on with today's video, as always, a bit of a cheap plug, but if you enjoy the channel, please consider helping the channel out by hitting that subscribe button. It's free, doesn't cost you a penny, and we have that dream, we have that goal of reaching 55k subscribers, so if you could help out, that would be greatly appreciated. Now, I'm sure something else that would be greatly appreciated is if we just got on with the rest of the video, so let's just dive into this bad boy then, shall we? And as always, we're going to be starting off with the old oppositional preview and have an updated look on Aberdeen, who's still sitting third. And it's got to be said, coming into this game of football versus Rangers, Aberdeen on paper couldn't be doing much better than they're actually doing, as they're currently on a 6-match undefeated streak in the actual league. In fact, if you go back to the last time we played Aberdeen, which was in November, and we pumped them 4-0, beautiful day, ladies and gentlemen, I'll take one of them, the Mora. But since that loss to Rangers, they've actually lost one game in 8 since Ibrox, and that loss, by the way, was to a late goal versus St Mirren in the Cup. Don't. But as impressive as that stat line is for undefeated in the last 6, only one loss in the last 8, which has been heavily talked up ahead of this game versus Rangers, if you actually look in to that run, it isn't exactly as smooth sailing as some will lead you to believe, because if you look into the game of football, 4 of those 8 games have been very disappointing draws, including 2 which were actually 0-0 draws. And that's including their most recent game of football, which was a 0-0 draw versus Dundee United, where they were only able to muster 1 shot on target the entire game of football. And despite the run and the stats that's out there ahead of this game, it has once again led the Aberdeen fans to be very vocal about wanting a managerial change once again, because the style of play and the standard of football has significantly dropped from the early season brightness to where it is now. And I've got to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, that right there is what I've found to be the most fascinating thing about Aberdeen Football Club this season. From reading into them and watching them and seeing what the fans are saying for today's video, the change in what's been happening over the last couple of weeks to months for Aberdeen is so damn fascinating. Because if you think back to November, right, I sat here and I spoke to you and I said, hey, this isn't the same Aberdeen team that we've faced over the last couple of years. They're getting the ball down. They were literally playing football. I sat here and I said that to you. They weren't just throwing long balls and throwing elbows. They were a changed team. Well, a couple of weeks after November, a couple of months I should say, sorry, it's sort of slowly but surely reverting back to the old style of play and the Aberdeen that we all know and absolutely hate. Now, don't get me wrong, they still have very talented players within their setup. I'm looking at Hedges, who will be a danger man tomorrow, because he looks a real player and he's only getting better as the season goes on. And that kind of leads me to Lewis Ferguson, who's always a troublemaker in these games of football, and he's just getting better as a football player. Every season he's just maturing and adding more to his game. He will be dangerous. And you had guys like Wright, who looks to be out in his way from Aberdeen at this current moment in time, as it looks like he's gone down south. But they have players in their team that is very dangerous, that can get the ball down and drag their team forward when they're allowed to play like that. But as we've already previously said, there's a bit of a shake-up going on right now at Aberdeen, and it seemingly perfectly coincides with Sam Cosgrove and Curtis Main returning to the starting 11, because when they two players were out, it forced Derek to manage and tweak his tactics and got them flying the way they were early on in the season. But with the two best strikers at the football club returning, it's kind of opened the door for Derek McInnes to shove all that out the way and dive right back in to long ball, set piece, elbow and football. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Sam Cosgrove is a fantastic striker. I'm going to be honest, I think he's one of the best strikers outside of the old firm in this league. He's a bit of a throwback player. He's safe to watch and everything like that, but he can find the back of the net and he will be a danger man tomorrow. But there's no confirmation that he's even going to start anymore, because Aberdeen are sort of doing a juggling act right now with him and Curtis Main, because again, the ball's not really sticking with Big Sam so far this season. So it's actually been Curtis Main that's been starting over him, and Cosgrove's actually been coming in off the bench. Now, they did start one game together where they went 2 up top versus St Johnstone, and it actually worked as they won the game. But we all know there is absolutely no chance that Aberdeen are going to play 2 up top tomorrow. So it's going to be very interesting to see who Derek goes with. Does he continue with Curtis Main, or does he revert back to type and go with Big Sam Cosgrove. But the striking situation isn't the only interesting decision that Derek McInnes has to make tomorrow, as they will be without one of their most consistent and best players this season, big Ross McCrory, who obviously can't play as he's on loan from Rangers. And as we mentioned in November preview, he is so damn important to that setup because it does all the hard graft, it does all the ugly work, and he plugs gaps that is left with the likes of Hedges, who is fantastic going forward. And I really think McCrory's selflessness and the dirty side of his game has allowed players like Hedges to flourish this season, because they didn't need to worry about coming back, because McCrory will cover it. But with him being gone now, that leaves a massive gap in the middle of that park, and it will force certain players like Hedges and that to be a wee bit more defensive, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Derek sets this team up. But you know, son, Ross McCrory's absence for the team isn't really being talked up, because for the first time this season we're going to play Aberdeen and they're not already making excuses, because in the first game where we bet them 1-0 at Pittodrie, they were making excuses. Oh, we've not got any Sam, we've not got any Curtis, we've not got any strikers. And then in the game in November, you've got Sam, you've got Curtis, aye, but we've not got this guy because of the virus, or this guy. So that was the excuses. Well, all the excuses have been took off the table, because all the conversation from their side is the players they now have available. So clearly Derek fancies his chances in this game. And you know, son, that's kind of it for the old Aberdeen preview right frickin' there. Yes, they are on a fantastic run of form on paper, but exactly if you look into the games and you see how they're playing, they're not exactly firing on all cylinders. But in no way am I trying to say this is going to be an easy game tomorrow. We know how dangerous a certain couple of their players can really be. We know how dangerous they are from set pieces. We know how talented Hedges and Ferguson is, and we know for a fact that this team, to a man, will find the extra 10-15% that was lacking in the lacklustre games versus Motherwell and Dundee United. They will find that extra percentage now it's against Rangers, especially with how the season's gone for us. But with the oppositional preview now done and dusted, it's now time to flip over and talk about what matters most, because there's some real important things that we need to break down and discuss from the Rangers side of things. And right off the bat, I'm just going to be very honest, it feels very weird to have a full week to prepare for a game of football rather than a game every 3 days, which we've played now for the last 6 weeks at the football club. We've actually had to wait a full week for Rangers things. I'm not sure that I like that, if I'm honest. But where we get Rangers withdrawals, it's probably the best for the Rangers team. As Gerard said, this is the first time in a very long time that they've been able to train on things and tune some things up about the team going in to another massive game of football. Now, unfortunately, the time off hasn't exactly opened the door for some of our players to return from injury, and that's where I want to go next, because there's some real important things that we need to break down. First of all, we'll start off with the latest injury to the team then, shall we? And unfortunately, I have to say this, but Kemar Roofe has picked up a little niggle and he will be missing for the next couple games. Now, that's quoted from the manager Steven Gerrard during this week's press conference, and that right there is a bit of a punch in the old ticker, because you didn't need me to tell you, we all know just how massive this man has been, especially in December. We were playing so many games every 3 days. His movement, his ability to link up the play, his finishing ability was a major cog in the machine that was able to play every league game in December and come away with maximum points. 18 from 18. He played his part in every single point gained. But the best thing about Rangers this season, ladies and gentlemen, and again, I'm not saying it's a positive thing that Roofe's been injured, but the best thing about our team this season is we aren't over-reliant on one player or one position anymore. We have real strength and depth, and where Kemar Roofe will be a massive loss to our football club, it does leave an option and a challenge for your man Hadji to go out there and replicate what he'd done in December, because to me, he was my player of the month last month, I've got to be honest. Every game he came on, he changed. Every game he started, he was vital and usually assisted or scored the winner to get all maximum points. And that for me is a natural rotation. You take Roofe out from the right hand side and you put your man Hadji in. He was fantastic in the second half versus Celtic, and I'm sure he'll be licking his lips looking with an opportunity to go in there and continue his fantastic run of form. So Hadji being at the level he is and him being able to come in has sort of softened the Kemar Roofe blow and sort of stopped my arse from flapping as much as it would be if Hadji wasn't where he was at. Now, with that being said, still fingers crossed Kemar Roofe is back as soon as possible. The original timetable that's in place looks to be Easter Road, so fingers crossed we see that man jog on to old Spoon Country. But it isn't just Kemar Roofe who's actually injured and is going to be missing the next couple of games. We also got an update on Scotty Arfield. Now, we've been covering this over the last couple of previews, but finally we got the news back from the scan and everything like that, and unfortunately it is pretty damn serious, as it's an ankle issue, and Scotty Arfield will be missing at least the next 4 to 5 weeks. Now, that one hurts just as much as your man Kemar Roofe, because we know what Scotty Arfield brings to this team, especially goals from midfield. But now it's on Joe Aribo to step up and bring what Arfield brings to your team, because that's going to be the natural replacement. I think we all know Aribo will be that attacking option in the midfield replacing Arfield, but he needs to start adding more goals to his game, because that's what Arfield brings to our setup. But it isn't all bad news, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're thinking about clicking off today's video and saying, no, I can't handle any more of this, son, what are you doing to me? Well, we did get one positive shining light from the injury news update, and that's the fact that Ryan Jack will be officially back next week. Now, unfortunately, he won't be involved in this game, but he's went through training, he's came through unscathed. It looks like there's no aggravation of the previous knee injury or anything like that, so it looks to be in line for the next game. Your man Ryan Jack will be back in our midfield. But thankfully, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. There was no other fresh injuries to the team, and we also got an update from Gerard about Katic, who is progressing very, very well, so it'll not be too long till the Croatian Prince is back in amongst it. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Gerard has the full selection of every other player in his team, and yes, Kemar Roofe, yes, Arfield, and yes, the continued absence of Ryan Jack is massive for us, but there's no excuses here, ladies and gentlemen. We have a tremendous squad with players that's more than capable of stepping up to the plate, and I think Hagi and Aribo will be these players in this game of football. But that's it. With that being said, that's us all officially done and dusted. That is the old oppositional preview. That is the Rangers conversation, and that is the latest Rangers team news. Now, all that's left for me today is take all of that, combine it, digest it, and try to predict this game of football. So whilst you're hopefully getting involved down there in the comment section below, I will give you mine very, very briefly. I'm expecting an all-out battle, ladies and gentlemen, that it will take us a bit to get that goal, and I think we will need a bit of magic, and I just think Hagi and Aribo is capable of creating that magic. So I'm actually going to go with Rangers 2, Aberdeen 0. My goal scorers are going to be none other than your man Hagi, and believe it or not, I'm going to go with the other fullback in Bornabear Barisic. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. If you got involved down there in the comment section below, I will be speaking to you very, very shortly. But all that's left for me today is thank you for taking the time of your day to sit here and talk about Rangers things with me. But before we officially wrap up today's video, I just want to give a special shout out to Tommy. His mum actually reached out to me on Instagram and sent me a video of him doing the full intro and everything like that. It was absolutely tremendous, mate. A bit annoying you're better than me at it, especially considering I do this all the time, but it was absolutely tremendous. He's just a wee young boy, so it was great to see him get involved in the old channel. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Take care of yourselves. All the best. I'll see you in tomorrow's video, and bye.